My name is Ruth Chambers. I'm 70 years old, and I just finished the most satisfying 23-year revenge plot you've ever heard. Yeah, you heard that right. 23 years. Because some betrayals are so deep, so calculated, that quick revenge just won't do. You need to play the long game. This whole thing started in Baltimore, back in 2002. I was 47 years old, working as the office manager for a small but successful consulting firm called Patterson and Associates. I'd been there for 12 years, knew every client, every contract, every detail of how that business ran. The owner, Michael Patterson, was like a brother to me. We'd built that company together, him doing the consulting work, me handling literally everything else. Michael had a son, Ethan, 25 years old, fresh out of business school, full of confidence and absolutely zero real-world experience. Michael brought him into the company, asked me to train him, show him the ropes. Said Ethan would start at the bottom, learn the business properly. I liked Ethan at first. He was charming, asked good questions, seemed genuinely interested in learning. I spent 6 months teaching him everything: client relationships, billing systems, how to handle difficult situations, where all the bodies were buried, so to speak. I trusted him. That was mistake number 1. One Monday morning, I came into work and found Michael waiting in my office with Ethan and a woman from HR I'd never seen before. Michael wouldn't look me in the eye. "Ruth, we need to talk about some discrepancies in the accounts," Ethan said, all businesslike. I looked at Michael. "What discrepancies?" That's when Ethan laid it out. According to him, there were thousands of dollars missing from client accounts. Payments that had been received, but never properly recorded. Money that had disappeared over the past 3 years. And all the irregularities traced back to transactions I'd handled. I felt the floor drop out from under me. "That's impossible," I said. "Michael, you know me. I would never." "The evidence is pretty clear, Ruth," Ethan interrupted, sliding a folder across the desk. "We've been auditing the books for the past month. These are your electronic signatures on all the problematic transactions." I opened that folder and felt sick. He was right, those were my digital signatures. On invoices I didn't remember, for amounts that didn't match what I knew we'd received. It looked bad. Really bad. "We're going to have to let you go," Michael said quietly. Still wouldn't look at me. "Effective immediately. We're not going to press charges, but you need to leave." "Michael, please, just let me explain. There has to be a mistake." "Security will escort you out," Ethan said, standing up. "Box up your personal items. You have 15 minutes. I sat there in shock. 12 years of loyalty, 12 years of friendship, and Michael was just letting this happen. Believing his son over me, without even a real conversation. I got escorted out like a criminal. Stood on the sidewalk holding a cardboard box with my coffee mug and family photos, watching people I'd worked with for years avoid eye contact through the office windows. I spent the next 2 weeks trying to figure out what happened. Went through every record I had at home, every email, every backup file. And slowly, piece by piece, I realized what Ethan had done. He'd been skimming money. Small amounts from client accounts over the time I'd been training him. But he'd done it using my credentials. Passwords he'd watched me enter, security questions he'd learned the answers to through casual conversation. He'd framed me perfectly, setting it up so that when his father inevitably discovered the missing money, all evidence would point to me.
And why?
So, I'd be gone, and he could take my position. So he could be the indispensable right-hand person to his father without having to actually earn it. I tried telling Michael. Called him, emailed him, showed up at the office. He refused to see me. Sent me a letter through his lawyer saying if I continued to harass him, he'd press charges for the embezzlement. That's when I realized I was done. Finished. At 47 years old, with a termination on my record and whispers of embezzlement following me, I couldn't get another job in my field. Nobody would hire me. My reputation was destroyed. I had a choice. I could be bitter, broken, defeated. Or I could do something else. I chose something else. I took stock of what I had. Some savings, not much, but enough to live lean for a while. A skill set that was incredibly valuable, even if nobody wanted to hire me directly.
And time.
All the time in the world. I started freelancing. Bookkeeping, office management, business consulting, all under a new business name, working with small companies that didn't do background checks, that just cared about results. I was good at what I did. Really good. Within a year, I had more clients than I could handle. Within 3 years, I'd built up enough capital to start making investments. Small stuff at first, rental properties in up-and-coming neighborhoods, small business partnerships, local startups that needed seed money and expertise. And I watched Patterson and Associates. Watched from a distance, keeping tabs through industry connections, through public records, through the grapevine. Ethan ran that company into the ground. Not immediately. At first, things looked okay. But without me handling the details, managing relationships, keeping all the balls in the air, things started slipping. Clients left. New business slowed down. Ethan was good at looking competent, but he didn't actually know how to do the work. Michael tried to fix it, but he was getting older, getting tired. The fire wasn't there anymore. By 2008, the recession hit and Patterson and Associates was already weak. They laid off staff, lost their biggest clients, downsized their office. By 2010, they were barely hanging on. And I was thriving. My investments had paid off. My consulting business was booming. I'd built something new, something better than what I'd lost. But I never forgot, never forgave. I waited. In 2015, I heard through the grapevine that Michael was sick. Cancer. He was trying to get his affairs in order, trying to secure Ethan's future before he died. But the business was worth almost nothing now. Years of mismanagement had destroyed it. Michael died in 2016. I sent flowers to the funeral. Didn't attend, but I sent flowers. After Michael's death, Ethan tried to sell Patterson and Associates. Couldn't find a buyer. The client list was decimated. The reputation was shot. The financials were a disaster. He was stuck with a dying business and debt. That's when I made my move. I created a shell company, one that couldn't be traced back to me, and made Ethan an offer. A lowball offer, but the only offer he had. $50,000 for the entire business, all assets, the client list, the name, everything. He took it. He had no choice. Through my shell company, I bought Patterson and Associates. And then I sat on it. Did nothing with it. Just owned it. But I wasn't done. Remember how Ethan had framed me using my digital credentials? I'd spent years, literal years, learning everything I could about digital forensics, about data recovery, about how to prove electronic fraud. I took courses, got certifications, became an expert, and I went back through those old files from 2002, the ones from the audit that had gotten me fired. With new knowledge and new tools, I dug deeper than Ethan ever expected anyone to look. And I found it. All of it. The ghost transactions he'd created. The patterns that showed someone had accessed the system using my credentials from computers I'd never touched. The metadata that proved the timeline Ethan had presented was impossible. The shadow accounts where the money had actually gone before being carefully moved around to hide the trail. I built an airtight case. Took me 3 years of part-time work, but I did it. In 2019, I walked into a lawyer's office, not as Ruth Chambers, disgraced former office manager. As Ruth Chambers, successful business consultant and owner of multiple profitable ventures. I had money now, resources, credibility. I filed a civil suit against Ethan Patterson for fraud, defamation, and financial damages. Presented every piece of evidence I'd compiled. Showed exactly how he'd framed me, stolen from his own father's company, and destroyed my reputation. Ethan tried to fight it, hired lawyers. But here's the thing, he'd spent the past 17 years barely scraping by. He had no money, no resources, and my evidence was perfect. The case took 2 years to work through the system. Discovery was beautiful. Watching Ethan squirm as my lawyers deposed him, as the evidence piled up, as his own past employees testified about his incompetence and suspicious behavior. He tried to settle, offered me everything he had left, which wasn't much. I refused. This wasn't about money anymore. We went to trial in 2021. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. found in my favor on every count, awarded me $1.2 million in damages. Ethan declared bankruptcy immediately. Couldn't pay. But that was fine. I'd known he couldn't pay. The money was never the point. The point was the public record. The court documents that laid out exactly what he'd done. The judgment that officially cleared my name. The proof that I'd been telling the truth all along. I sent copies to every business association in Baltimore. To every potential employer Ethan might approach. To every person who'd worked at Patterson and Associates back in 2002. To everyone who'd believed his lies. Ethan can't work in this industry anymore. Can't get hired. Can't start over. His reputation is destroyed the same way he destroyed mine, except his destruction is based on truth. But wait, I'm still not done. Remember that shell company I used to buy Patterson and Associates? In 2022, I dissolved that company and transferred ownership of the business name to my own name. Ruth Chambers now legally owns Patterson and Associates. Last year, I reopened it. New office, new staff, new clients. But the same name. I made sure everyone knew the history, that this was the company where I'd been wrongly accused, where I'd been fired, where my reputation had been destroyed, and that I'd bought it back, that I'd cleared my name, that I'd won. We're doing great. Better than the original company ever did, even in its heyday. Because now I own it all, the work and the credit and the success. 3 months ago, I got a call. It was Ethan. He'd somehow gotten my number. His voice was different, older, tired, desperate. Ruth, please. I'm sorry. I was young and stupid and ambitious. I destroyed everything. Your life, my father's business, my own future. I'm living in a one-bedroom apartment, working retail. I have nothing. Please. Isn't this enough? Haven't I paid? I let him talk. Let him plead. Let him cry. And when he finally went quiet, waiting for my response, I said, Ethan, I want you to think about something. When you framed me, I was 47 years old. You took 12 years of my life and threw them away like garbage. You took my reputation, my career, my sense of self-worth. You made me unemployable. And you did it without losing a single night of sleep because it benefited you. You never once reached out to apologize. Never once tried to make it right. For 23 years, you let me live with what you did to me, and you never cared. So no, this isn't enough. This will never be enough. But it's not about you anymore. It's about me living well. You can do whatever you want with your life, I don't care. But you'll do it knowing that the woman you tried to destroy is now more successful than you ever were, and she did it by being better than you in every possible way. Don't call me again. I hung up, blocked his number. And I've never thought about him since. I'm 70 years old now, running a $1 million business that bears the name of the company where I was wrongfully fired, living in a beautiful house that my own hard work paid for, and spending my evenings mentoring young women in business, teaching them to be smart, to document everything, to trust but verify, and most importantly, to never let anyone make them small. Ethan Patterson is a footnote in my story, a brief chapter where I learned that sometimes you lose everything before you can build something better. 23 years is a long time to wait for revenge, but honey, let me tell you, watching a man spend 2 decades destroying himself while you build an empire is worth every single day. He took 1 career from me. I built 3 more. He tried to end my story. I just started a better one. That's not revenge. That's resurrection. If that story hit you in the spine, go ahead and like this video. And I need to hear from you. What's the longest game you've ever played to prove someone wrong? Drop it in the comments. And of course, subscribe and follow for more real stories that prove one thing. The comeback always hits harder than the betrayal.